Good afternoon. Good afternoon. A frog in my throat this morning, or this afternoon. Welcome to Midweek Musings here at Trinity Heights United Methodist Church. I'm Kent Little, Senior Pastor. It is good to have you with us. Whether you're joining us live in this moment, or whether you join us later as you run across this video on our Facebook page. Most importantly, welcome. It's good to see you, sort of see you. Anyway, it's a great day, a little breezy outside, and just the breeze makes it just a little chilly. Actually, I went out on the west side of the church. I was going to sit out there and do my musing today, and I didn't take a jacket with me, thinking, well, it was 60, 61, 62, I forget what the temperature is. Anyway, but I decided it was just a little chilly out there without a jacket, so I came back inside. But it is a nice day. It's a nice fall day. Like I say, a little breezy. The leaves are still they're starting to wane a little bit, but there are still some beautiful trees out there. The colors of the trees. Fall is one of my favorite times of year because of the color and the relief from the heat. Snow is one of my favorite times of year. I confess I tend to love snow. If I get too much of it, I can get tired of it. But I love getting up in the morning after a fresh fallen snow. It's just I'm a winter guy more than a hot summer guy. And of course, I love the spring too, when things start to green up again, etc. So I have lots of favorite times of the year. Anyway, it's a beautiful fall day outside, and the colors are still very beautiful, even if they are kind of waning and getting kind of dull. I still love the browns and the yellows and the reds and oranges. It's a great time of year. So there continue to be a lot of things going on here at Trinity Heights. Tonight at 5:30 we have our welcome on Wednesdays. We'll have a meal. I think the meal is being provided by the Scouts here at the church. We have a large scouting program, so it's always good for when we're able to help support them. And so they're going to provide some sustenance for us this evening. There'll be choir practice, kids time for the kids that come for that time, as well as I'll have my Theology Matters class. We're going to do something a little different tonight. I've had several requests from different members of the church that it'd be nice to maybe have a kind of an update on the state of the United Methodist Church in terms of kind of what's been going on. Are there any effects that we can see yet from the disaffiliations from the churches that have left the denomination? Where are we right now? What do we see coming down the road with our next general conference in 2024? And so anyway, I'm tonight at 6:15 for the class. I'm going to do just kind of an overview, I try to stay up with the news that comes out of the General Conference and other places about the state of our beloved United Methodist Church. And at the same time, I'm not sure if I know enough to be dangerous or not. Anyway, we're just going to kind of do an overview, kind of a Cliff's Notes version, if you will. Some of the things that I do know, that I've read, that colleagues have shared with me in terms of where we are and what our hopes are for the future. So there will be that. Also, I'm going to do another one. I need to get it on the calendar. I haven't done that yet because I had a number of people like out of our choir who are unable to be at this 6:15 because they have choir practice and other conflicts. And so I'm going to try to do one in the evening here in the next week or two on an evening, and I'll get that information out if you're interested in coming to that, if you can't make it tonight at 6:15. Also thinking about reaching out to my colleague and friend, Reverend Mark Holland, who is, he's with Mainstream UMC, very involved in at the general conference level and at our conference level in terms of getting information out, trying to get accurate information out about the disaffiliation process and the implications for the denomination, et cetera. I've reached out to him to see if maybe I could get him to come down and do a talk here at the church, and we can open that up to other churches, other United Methodist churches too, if anyone's interested. But I haven't heard back yet, but hopefully maybe we can get something scheduled. It may be after the first of the year, but he is certainly much more in the know and in those circles than I am. And so he can bring much more information and a wealth of wisdom to us if we can get him down here to do that. So anyway, those are some of the things that are going on. Of course, Thanksgiving's coming up. You know, it doesn't hardly seem possible that we're already into November for a whole week. And Thanksgiving just right around the corner. And then, of course, right after Thanksgiving, we'll start the Advent season. This year for Advent, I've decided to do a sermon series, an Advent series, based on Mary's Magnificat. And so we'll take just a piece of the Magnificat each week as we move toward Christmas, and we'll discuss what are the implications of her Magnificat. What did she see on the horizon? What was her wisdom? Because based on that and other things, we see the tradition that's been passed down about Mary, the mother of Jesus. I think she was, though very, very young, certainly wise and one that we can learn from. And so anyway, so I thought that might be interesting. I've never done that before, so I'm taking her Magnificat, and we're going to do a piece of that every Sunday of Advent this year. And then we'll have a Christmas Eve service. Christmas Eve's on Sunday, and so if you haven't checked the calendar, we'll have our normal services on Sunday morning, on Christmas Eve day morning, our 10 o'clock and our 11:15, and then Christmas Eve, we'll have just one Christmas Eve service, so there'll be more information coming out about that as well. And then, of course, New Year's Eve is also on a Sunday, so we're just going to have one service on that day, on that Sunday, January 31st. So anyway, lots of things happening, lots of things going on. It's a busy place around here. So anyway, it's good to be busy as opposed to not. And so anyway, so those are just some things, some highlights. Oh, I think our roof is about done. We just put on a new roof. Hit some hail damage, and so I think that project is almost completed. So anyway, a lot of things getting done, a lot of things happening here at Trinity Heights. So anyway, so as I do each time, and I want to apologize for last week that I had some things going on last Wednesday, and I was trying to get in several places and get several things done. And I confess, I just forgot to do my midweek musing last Wednesday. And so I beg your forgiveness for that. So anyway, so as I do each week, just a little talk about what we're going to be doing this coming Sunday. This last Sunday, we in our worship celebration, we celebrated All Saints Sunday and remembered the saints. The saints of Trinity Heights United Methodist Church, those who have gone on, as well as those who we've been involved with, even if they weren't members. And then, of course, just saints in general, the saints of our own lives, both living and dead, and those people who have helped shape our lives and our faith, those for whom I talk about, for whom we stand on their shoulders, of those who went before us. So that's what we did this last Sunday. This coming Sunday, Jesus gets a little pointed in his teaching. Not that that's unusual. He often did in the tradition we have in our scriptures. He gets a little pointed, though, with some of the religious leaders of his day. He's teaching his disciples, and in Matthew, he tells his disciples and those listening to him at the time, he says, do what they teach you. And so evidently they were teaching good, solid stuff. But he did say, but don't do as they do. He's basically saying some of these religious leaders do not practice what they preach. And so he was very critical of that, of the heavy burdens that they often laid on those who they led, those whom they served. And we can see that. We see that today in our own world, in the religious world. We can often identify those religious leaders in our time that don't particularly practice what they preach. Sometimes they do. There are those, I would say, in our day that practice what they preach, but what they preach isn't very good either. And so maybe it's kind of a catch-22. If you're going to practice what you preach, make sure you're preaching good, sound theology, and helpful, graceful, loving, and transforming messages. So anyway, so Jesus was very critical of some of the religion, and it's important, I think, that we emphasize some of the religious leaders of his day. We should not ever assume that all of the religious leaders of Jesus' day were bad. We have evidence of that in our own story, that there were those who were trying to do the right thing. And so I think it's really important when we talk about in our scriptures, in our Christian scriptures, in the Second Testament, in the New Testament, when we talk about the religious leaders of Jewish day, the Jewish leaders and the Jewish people, that we don't make some broad brushstroke that someone might understand that all Jewish people and all Jewish religious leaders of Jesus' day were bad folks, because they absolutely were not. That kind of thinking has led to all kinds of anti-Semitism and atrocities. And so please, I think it's important that we emphasize when we talk about these kind of passages, when Jesus is being critical, that he's being critical of some religious leaders. Not unlike if I am critical of a Christian person, that there are some Christian people who claim the name who I would critique and say that they're not practicing what they should be preaching, or they're not preaching what they should be preaching. But by no means am I critical of the entire Christian faith or all Christian leaders. And so I think we need to give the same grace and the same understanding to be just and equitable in our conversations. So anyway, so that's what we're going to wrestle with a little bit this coming Sunday. How look at how Jesus critiqued those in his time who he didn't feel like were doing what they should be doing, especially religious leaders. Religious leaders do carry a higher expectation, I believe. I have to, as a Christian clergy, as a United Methodist clergy, my words matter. And I think that applies to all of us, but I think especially for a public figure, for a religious leader who speaks in public, who speaks on Sunday morning, who speaks on behalf of a congregation, sometimes who speaks on behalf of God, if you will, as we interpret the scriptures and the stories and the experiences we have. Our words matter, and we carry a huge responsibility with that, because people listen to us, and oftentimes they believe what we say, and oftentimes that leads them to actions that bear that out. And so we have to be really careful about how we portray, how we talk about, how we verbalize the faith and what we believe is a good, faithful practice of our faith. And so I think that's basically, to some degree, that's basically what Jesus is saying in this passage. Your words matter. And if your words and your actions don't match, then something is terribly wrong. And I think that was part of the message Jesus was trying to get across to his listeners in the passage we'll be dealing with this Sunday. So anyway, so that's what we'll wrestle a little bit with this coming Sunday. How do we speak of a God of love, a God of justice, of mercy, of compassion? How do we speak of a God who loves us unconditionally and also critique in a way that encourages growth and encourages repentance, if you will, back toward the way of Christ? How do we do that in a good and faithful, compassionate, merciful, loving way? It's not easy. It's not an easy thing to do. And so anyway, if you can be here Sunday morning, I invite you to join us. 10 o'clock in the sanctuary is our more traditional structured service. Also 11:15 in the fellowship hall is a little more casual, a little more contemporary, if you will. But if you can be here, I certainly invite you. We would be glad you showed up. If you can't be here, hold us in prayer as we continue on the way. So anyway, thank you for being here. It's great to have you. It's great to have this opportunity to reach out beyond these walls during the week and to touch base and to let you know I'm thinking of you, and you are in my prayers, holding you in the light, as I like to say. So, as we close here, I just encourage us all to seek out that peace and to be a light and to love one another, every single other, until there are no others, only one beloved community of all. May it be so. May it be soon. Thank you for being here. Goodbye.